The kitchen was a symphony of chaos. Metal clanging against metal, oil sizzling in pans, voices shouting orders in Russian and English. I pressed my back against the cold tile wall, trying to make myself invisible as two line cooks barreled past me with trays stacked so high they swayed like drunken towers. The heat was suffocating, wrapping around my throat like invisible hands, and the smell of seared meat mixed with the sharp tang of expensive wine made my empty stomach twist. I was always invisible here at Tsarina, the kind of high-end restaurant where a single bottle of vodka cost more than my monthly rent, the kind of place where women wore diamonds that caught the light like trapped stars, and men spoke in low, dangerous tones about things I didn't want to understand. I'd been working here for 8 months, keeping my head down, my voice quiet, my presence forgettable. That's how I survived. "Table 7 needs water," Irina hissed at me, her sharp eyes cutting through the kitchen's haze. She was the senior server, all severe cheekbones and tight bun, the kind of woman who could make you feel small with just a glance. "And don't slouch. You look like a ghost." I felt like a ghost. My feet ached in the cheap black flats I'd worn for 3 years. The same ones I'd resoled twice because I couldn't afford new ones. My uniform, a simple black dress that was supposed to be elegant, hung on my frame like I was a child playing dress-up. I'd lost weight I couldn't afford to lose, the kind that came from skipping meals and choosing between groceries and electricity. I grabbed the water pitcher, its crystal surface cold against my palms, and pushed through the double doors into the dining room. The shift was immediate, from harsh fluorescent chaos to amber-lit sophistication. Candlelight flickered across white tablecloths. The murmur of conversation was punctuated by the delicate clink of silverware against porcelain. I moved along the wall, a shadow among shadows, refilling glasses for people who never looked at me, until table 7. I noticed the security first, 2 men in dark suits flanking the entrance to the private section, their eyes constantly scanning, hands resting near their jackets in a way that made my skin prickle. Another stood by the bar, speaking quietly into an earpiece. The air felt different in that corner of the restaurant, charged, dangerous, like the moment before lightning strikes. Then I saw him. He sat at the center of the private section, his back to the wall. Always the wall, I'd notice later, always where he could see every entrance and exit. The candlelight carved shadows across his face, all sharp angles and brutal beauty. Dark hair swept back from a broad forehead. Eyes the color of winter ice that seemed to miss nothing. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I'd make in a year, custom-tailored to shoulders that spoke of violence carefully contained. Viktor Volkov. I'd heard his name whispered in the kitchen, always with a mixture of fear and reverence. The staff who'd worked here longer than me knew better than to gossip, but I'd pieced together enough. Russian. Powerful. The kind of man who owned half the city's underground, and probably a fair portion of what was above it, too. He was speaking to someone, a woman whose back was to me. All I could see was platinum blonde hair, styled in an elaborate updo, a dress that shimmered like liquid silver, and diamonds at her throat that caught the light with every breath. His fiancée, I'd overheard. Katerina something. They were supposed to marry in 2 weeks. I approached their table with the water pitcher, my hands steady despite the tremor in my chest. This was routine. Fill the glasses. Disappear. That's all. But then I heard it. Her voice was low, but the dining room had that strange acoustic quality where sometimes sound carried in unexpected ways. Already in position. Dmitri confirmed it. The warehouse on 9th Thursday at midnight. He won't suspect anything until it's too late. I froze. My hand hovered over Victor's water glass, the pitcher suddenly weighing 1,000 pounds. She continued, her tone casual, as if discussing the weather. And the offshore accounts? Once he's dead, we'll need to move quickly. Dmitri thinks we have a 48-hour window before his brother realizes what's happened. The water pitcher trembled. A single drop fell, hitting the white tablecloth like blood on snow. Victor's eyes flicked to me, just for a second, and in that moment, I saw something that made my breath catch. Not anger, not even surprise. Just a vast, empty coldness, like staring into the heart of winter itself. I should have walked away, should have pretended I'd heard nothing. But something in his face, something resigned, something that looked almost like lonely acceptance. Made me do the stupidest thing I'd ever done in my life. My hand shook as I set down the water pitcher. From my apron pocket, I pulled out my order pad and pen. My fingers felt numb, clumsy, as I scrawled 4 words that would change everything. She's going to kill you. I tore off the page, folded it once, and as I reached to refill his glass, a movement I'd done thousands of times before, I let the note slip from my fingers onto the table beside his hand. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then his hand moved, palm covering the note, sliding it toward himself with the smooth, practiced motion of someone who'd received 1,000 secret messages in his lifetime. He didn't look at it, didn't look at me, just continued his conversation with Katerina as if nothing had happened, his voice a low rumble that spoke of expensive cognac and cigarette smoke. But I saw his jaw tighten, saw the almost imperceptible tension that suddenly lined his shoulders. I stepped back, my legs shaking so badly I was amazed they held me. What had I done? What the hell had I just done? Katerina's laugh was like crystal breaking, beautiful and sharp. Darling, you seem distracted. Is the wine not to your liking? The wine is perfect, Victor replied, his accent turning the words into something both elegant and dangerous. Everything is perfect. I turned to leave, desperate to disappear back into the kitchen, back into invisibility and safety. But I'd only taken 3 steps when I heard it. His voice, still conversational but carrying a weight that made me stop. The server, he said, the small one with the dark hair. What's her name? My blood turned to ice. Katerina's response was dismissive. How should I know? They all look the same to me. Find out. Not a request. A command. I want to know everything about her. I didn't run. Running would draw attention. Instead, I walked with measured steps back toward the kitchen, feeling his eyes on my back like the barrel of a gun. My hands trembled so violently that when I pushed through the double doors, I nearly dropped the water pitcher. You look like you've seen a ghost, Irina said, her eyes narrowing. What happened? Nothing. My voice came out strangled, just tired. But it wasn't nothing. I'd just inserted myself into something vast and deadly, something I didn't understand. I'd given a note to one of the most dangerous men in the city, accusing his fiancée of planning his murder. And he'd listened. The rest of my shift passed in a blur of anxiety. Every time the kitchen doors opened, I flinched, expecting to see one of Victor's security team coming for me. Every whisper made my heart race. I dropped a tray of glasses. The crash was spectacular, and Irina's fury even more so, but I barely registered either. When midnight finally came and my shift ended, I grabbed my coat and headed for the employee exit. The alley was dark, lit only by a single flickering streetlight that turned everything into shadow and suggestion. March in the city was cold and wet, the kind of damp that seeped into your bones. I pulled my thin coat tighter, wishing desperately that I could afford something warmer. I'd taken maybe 10 steps when I heard it, the smooth purr of an expensive engine. Headlights flooded the alley, and a black Mercedes SUV with tinted windows rolled to a stop, blocking my path. My heart stopped. The back door opened, and Viktor Volkov stepped out. He was taller than I'd realized, well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that made the alley feel suddenly smaller. In the dim light, his face was all shadows and hard edges, beautiful in the way that predators are beautiful, something you admire even as your instincts scream at you to run. "Get in the car," he said. His voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it more terrifying. I have to get home. My bus, there is no bus." He took a step closer, and I could smell him now. Expensive cologne, something dark and woody, mixed with cigarette smoke and leather. "You will get in the car, or my men will put you in the car. The choice is merely whether you walk or are carried." 2 more men materialized from the shadows, the security I'd seen at the restaurant. They didn't touch me, but their presence was a cage, boxing me in. I looked at Victor's face, searching for some hint of what waited for me if I complied. Would he kill me for what I'd done? Make me disappear? In the city, people vanished all the time, especially people like me, poor, invisible, unmissed. But in his eyes I saw something I didn't expect. Not anger, not violence. just an intense, burning curiosity, mixed with something else I couldn't name. "Please," I whispered, and I hated how my voice shook. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I'll forget everything. Too late for that." He gestured toward the car. "We need to talk about what you heard, and about why a frightened little waitress would risk her life to warn a monster." The way he said monster, like it was simply a fact, not even an insult, made something twist in my chest. I got in the car. The interior was all leather and dark wood, warm after the cold alley, with that new car smell mixed with his cologne. Victor slid in beside me, and one of his men closed the door with a solid thunk that sounded like a prison cell locking. As the SUV pulled away from the curb, I realized I'd just crossed a line I could never uncross. The restaurant, my apartment, my small, invisible life, all of it was behind me now, receding like a dream. Victor was watching me with those winter ice eyes, and when he spoke, his voice was soft, almost kind. "Now," he said, "tell me your name." "Emma." My voice came out barely above a whisper. "Emma Clark." He nodded slowly, as if committing it to memory, then pulled out his phone and typed something with quick, efficient movements. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the warmth of his body beside me in the confined space. He was so close I could see the fine lines at the corners of his eyes, the small scar that cut through his left eyebrow. "Emma Clark," he repeated, his accent wrapping around my name like silk. 23 years old, born in Ohio. Moved to the city 2 years ago. You work 3 jobs. Zarina, a coffee shop on 5th, and you clean offices on weekends. You live alone in a studio apartment in Riverside. Rent is 4 months overdue. My blood ran cold. "How do you—" "I know everything." He slipped the phone back into his pocket. "I knew it 30 seconds after you walked away from my table. By the time you left the kitchen, I had your address, your bank statements, your employment history, and every parking ticket you've ever received." The SUV turned smoothly onto the highway, the city lights streaming past the tinted windows like falling stars. I was trapped in a moving cage with a man who could unmake my entire existence with a word. "Why?" I managed. "Why would you want to know about me?" His eyes fixed on mine, and there was something in his gaze that made my skin prickle. Not quite threat, not quite interest, but something in between that I couldn't name. "Because you did something extraordinarily stupid or extraordinarily brave, and I need to understand which." He leaned back against the leather seat, somehow managing to look relaxed despite the coiled tension I could feel radiating from him. "You heard my fiancé planning my murder, and instead of keeping your head down, instead of protecting yourself, you warned me. Why?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. How could I explain something I didn't fully understand myself? That moment at the table, seeing his face, that look of cold resignation, it had struck something in me, something I couldn't ignore. "I don't know," I said finally. It just felt wrong to hear that and do nothing. Wrong. He tested the word like it was foreign. "You risked your life because something felt wrong." "Yes." A sound escaped him. Not quite a laugh, but close, dark, and humorless. "Do you have any idea what you've done, Emma Clark? The forces you've set in motion?" "No." My hands twisted in my lap. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have. Don't apologize." His voice cut through mine like a blade. "I despise apologies. They're the refuge of the weak." He tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made me feel like an insect under glass. "What did you hear exactly?" "Every word. Leave nothing out." So I told him. Every fragment of conversation that had reached my ears. Dimitri's name, the warehouse on 9th, Thursday at midnight, the offshore accounts, the 48-hour window. With each word, I watched his face, but it remained a mask, giving nothing away. When I finished, silence filled the car again. Victor pulled out a silver cigarette case, extracted a cigarette, then seemed to remember himself and glanced at me. "Do you mind?" The absurdity of a man who'd essentially kidnapped me asking permission to smoke almost made me laugh. "No." He lit it with a heavy silver lighter, and smoke curled through the car, sharp and acrid. "Dmitri Morozov, my head of security for 5 years. And Katerina, he took a long drag. She really thought she could do it, kill me and take everything. I'm sorry, I said again, then remembered. Katerina and I were arranged, he continued, as if I hadn't spoken. Business merger disguised as romance. Her father controls the port. I control distribution. Together we'd have been unstoppable, another drag. I knew she didn't love me. Love is for children and fools. But I thought she understood the value of the alliance. Apparently she found a better offer. The SUV was slowing now. I looked out the window and realized we'd left the city entirely. Trees lined both sides of the road, their bare branches reaching toward the sky like skeletal fingers. Fear spiked through me, sharp and cold. Where are we going? Somewhere we can talk properly. He stubbed out his cigarette in the armrest ashtray. Somewhere no one can hear you scream. My breath caught. Are you going to kill me? He turned to look at me then, really look at me, and something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or amusement. If I wanted you dead, Emma, you would have died in that alley, quick, painless, and your body would never be found. He said it so matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. No, I'm not going to kill you. But I need to understand something first. What? Whether you're incredibly naive or working for someone. Working for... Indignation cut through my fear. I'm a waitress. I don't work for anyone except restaurants and cleaning companies. People lie. He shrugged. People are bought. People have hidden motivations. You could be FSB, CIA, or working for one of my competitors. A pretty, helpless girl is the perfect spy. No one suspects. Everyone underestimates. I'm not a spy. My voice rose, echoing in the car. I don't even know what FSB means. I just heard something terrible and I couldn't let it happen without trying to warn you. Why not? He leaned forward, suddenly intense. Why risk yourself for a stranger? A criminal? A monster, as you Americans like to call men like me? Because... I struggled for words. Because everyone deserves to know if someone's going to betray them. Even monsters. Maybe especially monsters, because who else would tell you? The silence that followed felt different. Heavier. Interesting, he murmured finally. Then louder, to the driver, the estate. We drove for another 20 minutes. The trees grew denser, the road narrower. Finally, we turned onto a private drive that wound through what seemed like miles of forest before emerging at a massive iron gate. Security cameras tracked our progress. The gate swung open silently. The house beyond was enormous. More mansion than house, really. 3 stories of stone and glass, lit from within like a jewel box. Manicured lawns stretched in every direction, and I could see what looked like a separate building in the distance, probably housing for security or staff. The SUV stopped in front of the main entrance, where 2 more men in suits waited. Victor got out first, then extended his hand to me. I stared at it for a moment. Broad palm, long fingers, a simple platinum watch at his wrist worth more than everything I owned combined. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and when I stepped out onto the gravel drive, my legs nearly buckled. He steadied me with his other hand at my elbow. Easy, he said. You're safe here. Safer than anywhere else in the world, actually. This estate has security that would make the Pentagon jealous. That wasn't as reassuring as he seemed to think it was. Inside, the house was a study in elegant minimalism. High ceilings, dark wood floors, white walls hung with what I suspected was very expensive art. Everything was clean, ordered, precise, the kind of place where you were afraid to touch anything. Victor led me through a hallway to what looked like a study. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined 2 walls, filled with leather-bound volumes in multiple languages. A massive desk dominated one corner. Leather chairs faced a fireplace where flames danced and crackled, the only warm thing in the cold perfection. Sit, he said, gesturing to one of the chairs. I'll get you something to drink. You look like you're about to faint. I sat because my legs gave me no choice. The leather was butter soft, and the chair seemed to swallow me whole. Victor moved to a bar cart and poured amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. He handed me one. Cognac. Drink it slowly. I'd never had cognac before. The first sip burned all the way down, but it left warmth in its wake. The second sip was easier. Victor sat across from me, close enough that our knees almost touched. He'd removed his suit jacket, and I could see the lines of his body beneath the white shirt. Powerful, controlled, dangerous. A shoulder holster with a gun rested against his ribs. "Now," he said, swirling his cognac, "let me tell you what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I will deal with Katerina and Dmitri. It will not be pleasant. It will not be quick. But it will be thorough." I swallowed hard. "But tonight, you present a problem." He took a sip of his drink. "You know too much. You've seen too much. And you're a loose end." My hands tightened on the glass. "I won't tell anyone. I swear. I know you won't." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough now that I could see flecks of gray in his ice-blue eyes. "Because you're going to stay here, under my protection, until I decide what to do with you." "Stay here? But I have work. Your coffee shop has already received notice that you're ill. The restaurant has been told you had a family emergency. Your cleaning supervisor believes you've quit. Your landlord will be paid." He said it all so calmly, as if he hadn't just dismantled my entire life in a few sentences. "You no longer exist outside these walls, Emma. Not until I say otherwise." Panic clawed at my throat. "You can't just keep me here like a prisoner, can't I?" He raised an eyebrow. "Look around. Look at where you are. Who do you think would stop me?" Tears pricked my eyes, hot and furious. "This is insane. You're insane. I tried to help you." "I know." His voice softened fractionally. "And I am helping you. Do you think Katerina won't figure out who warned me? Do you think she won't come looking for the waitress who ruined her plans? Here, you're protected. Out there," he shook his head, "you'd be dead within 48 hours. The truth of it hit me like cold water. I'd been so focused on warning him, I hadn't thought about the consequences, about what happens to people who interfere in the business of the powerful. "How long?" I whispered. "As long as it takes." He stood, draining his cognac. "You'll have a room, clothes, food, anything you need. But you don't leave. You don't call anyone. You don't exist until I say you do." He moved toward the door, then paused. "There's one more thing you should know, Emma Clark." I looked up at him. This beautiful, terrible man who held my life in his hands. "You saved my life tonight," he said quietly. "That means I owe you a debt, and I always pay my debts." His eyes held mine. "Whether that's a blessing or a curse for you? We'll see." Then he was gone, and I was alone in the beautiful prison he'd made for me. A woman appeared in the doorway moments after Victor left. Older, maybe 50, with steel-gray hair pulled into a neat bun and kind eyes that crinkled at the corners. She wore a simple gray dress and sensible shoes, and something about her presence was immediately calming. "Miss Clark?" she said with a slight accent I couldn't place. "I'm Olga. I manage the household. Mr. Volkov asked me to show you to your room." I followed her in a daze, my mind still reeling. The house seemed to stretch on forever. Hallways branching into more hallways, rooms with closed doors hiding unknown purposes. We climbed a grand staircase to the second floor, our footsteps muffled by thick carpet. "Here," Olga said, opening a door near the end of the hall. "This will be yours." The room was larger than my entire apartment. A 4-poster bed dominated the space, covered in soft white linens that looked like clouds. French doors opened onto a balcony overlooking the grounds. There was a sitting area with a couch and chairs, a desk, even a small bookshelf filled with novels in English. "The bathroom is through there." Olga gestured to another door. "I've laid out some clothes for you, nightgown, robe, toiletries. In the morning we'll get you properly fitted, but this should do for tonight." I turned to her, desperate for answers, for something that made sense. Why is he doing this? Really? Olga's expression softened. "Mr. Volkov is complicated. But I've worked for him for 10 years, and I can tell you this, he protects what's his. And right now, whether you understand it or not, you're his to protect." She moved toward the door. "Get some rest, dear. Tomorrow will be difficult. Wait." But she was already gone, the door clicking shut behind her. I stood in the middle of that beautiful room and finally let myself feel it. The terror, the unreality of everything that had happened. Just this morning, I'd woken up in my cramped studio, worried about tips and rent. Now I was a prisoner in a mansion, held by a man who could make me disappear with a word. I should have kept my head down, should have stayed invisible. The bathroom was all marble and gold fixtures. I showered under water pressure that felt like heaven, used soap that smelled like lavender and cost more than my monthly grocery bill, and tried not to think about what tomorrow would bring. The nightgown Olga had left was silk, soft as a whisper against my skin. I climbed into the enormous bed and sank into mattress that felt like sleeping on a cloud. Despite everything, despite the fear and uncertainty, exhaustion pulled me under within minutes. I dreamed of ice-blue eyes and cages made of gold. Morning came with weak sunlight filtering through the curtains. For a moment, I thought it had all been a nightmare. Then I saw the room, the unfamiliar luxury surrounding me, and reality crashed back. There was a soft knock at the door. "Miss Clark, may I come in?" Olga entered carrying a breakfast tray, fresh fruit, pastries, coffee that smelled like heaven. She set it on the small table by the window. "Mr. Volkov is dealing with business today. He asked that you remain in your room until this evening." Her expression was carefully neutral, but I saw the tightness around her eyes. "It's better that way. Trust me." I understood. He was dealing with Katerina and Dmitri, dealing with the betrayal. Will he kill them? The question came out before I could stop it. Olga paused at the door. "That's not for me to say, dear, but people who betray Mr. Volkov don't tend to have happy endings." She left before I could ask anything else. The day crawled by. I ate the breakfast. Everything was delicious, which felt obscene given the circumstances. I tried to read, but couldn't focus. I stared out the window at the grounds, watching security patrol the perimeter. This wasn't just a house, it was a fortress. Around noon, I heard it, a single gunshot, distant but unmistakable. My blood turned to ice, then silence, heavy and complete. I pressed my hands over my ears and tried not to imagine what was happening somewhere in this vast estate. Evening came finally. I'd changed into one of the dresses Olga had brought. Simple black, similar to my uniform but clearly expensive, fitting my body in ways my old clothes never had. There was another knock. "Mr. Volkov requests your presence for dinner," Olga said. My stomach twisted. "Do I have a choice?" Her expression was answer enough. I followed her downstairs to a formal dining room. A table that could seat 20 held settings for two, one at each end. Candles flickered. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. It was beautiful and surreal and terrifying. Victor was already there, standing by the window with a glass of vodka. He'd changed into dark slacks and a black shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked tired, I realized. Older, there were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there last night. "Emma." He gestured to the chair at the opposite end of the table. "Sit. Please." I sat, my hands clenched in my lap. Servers appeared. More staff I hadn't seen, laying out course after course. Soup, salad, some kind of fish that melted on the tongue. All of it prepared by what was clearly a professional chef. We ate in silence for several minutes. I could barely taste anything, too aware of him watching me, of the weight of unspoken things hanging between us. Finally, he set down his fork. "It's done." I looked up, meeting those ice-blue eyes. "Katerina?" "Gone. She's on a plane to Moscow as we speak, stripped of everything, money, status, protection. Her father has disowned her. By this time next week, she'll be working in a factory if she's lucky. If she's not..." He shrugged. "The people she betrayed me to don't appreciate failure. And Dmitri?" His expression didn't change. "Dmitri won't be a problem for anyone ever again." The single gunshot I'd heard. I swallowed hard, pushing away my plate. "Does that disturb you?" Victor asked. "The violence? The finality?" "Yes," I said honestly. "But I also understand that your world operates by different rules than mine." "My world." He leaned back in his chair, studying me. "You say that as if you're not in it now. But you are, Emma. The moment you slipped me that note, you stepped into my world. There's no stepping back out. So I'm a prisoner forever. That's my reward for saving your life." Something flickered in his eyes, anger, maybe, or frustration. "You're not a prisoner. You're protected. There's a difference. Is there? I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. Months of exhaustion, of fear, of struggling and failing and being invisible suddenly boiled over. You've taken my life, my freedom, my choices. You've locked me in a golden cage and told me it's for my own good. How is that different from a prison? He stood too, and suddenly the vast dining room felt very small, because prisoners don't have options, and I'm about to give you one. I waited, heart pounding. You can leave. He said it flatly without emotion. Tomorrow morning, I'll have you driven back to the city. I'll give you enough money to start over somewhere else. New city, new identity, everything you need. You'll be safe, hidden, free. Hope surged through me, bright and desperate. Really? Really. He moved around the table, approaching me slowly, like approaching a frightened animal. But there's a second option. He was close now. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, see the pulse beating in his throat. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You stay, he said softly. You stay here with me, under my protection, not as a prisoner, as something else. What else? My voice came out breathless. I don't know yet. His hand reached up and I flinched, but he only tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his touch surprisingly gentle. But last night, when you warned me, when you risked yourself for a stranger, you did something no one has done in a very long time. You saw me as human, not as a monster, not as a tool to be used, just human. His fingers trailed down my cheek, and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I'm tired, Emma, he whispered. Tired of betrayal and lies and people who see me as nothing but power and money. You looked at me and saw someone worth saving. And He stopped, jaw tightening. I want to understand why. I want to know what makes someone like you exist in a world like this. That's not a reason to keep me here, I managed. No. His hand dropped. But this is. I want you to stay. Not because I'm forcing you, because you choose it. Choose me. The absurdity of it struck me. This man, this dangerous, violent, powerful man, was asking, not commanding, offering choice instead of demands. Why would I choose this? I asked. Choose you? Because out there, you're invisible. A ghost working 3 jobs, drowning in debt, disappearing a little more each day. Here. His eyes held mine. Here, you're seen, protected, valued. You'll want for nothing. You'll never be invisible again, except I'll be a possession, a kept woman. Is that worse than being nothing? He didn't say it cruelly, just honestly. At least here, you exist. I wanted to argue, to tell him he was wrong. But part of me, a shameful, desperate part, recognized the truth in his words. I had been disappearing, drowning, becoming less and less until I was hardly a person anymore. I need to think, I said finally. You have until morning. He stepped back, giving me space. Olga will show you back to your room. The house is yours to explore, everywhere except the East Wing. That's business. And business is something you don't want to see. I nodded numbly and left, feeling his eyes on me the entire way. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my room, weighing my options. Freedom meant starting over with nothing, alone, always looking over my shoulder. Staying meant safety, luxury, but belonging to someone else. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. They paused outside my door. Emma? Victor's voice muffled by wood. Are you awake? I opened the door. He stood there in pajama pants and a t-shirt, looking more human than I'd ever seen him, vulnerable almost. I can't sleep, he admitted. Kept thinking about what you must think of me. What I am. What are you? I asked. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. A monster who met an angel and doesn't want to let her go. He ran a hand through his hair. I've done terrible things, Emma. Things that would make you run screaming. But today, when I dealt with the betrayal, all I could think about was you. About how someone like you exists. Someone who risks everything for a stranger. You're not a stranger anymore, I said, before I could stop myself. His eyes snapped to mine. No? No, you're... I struggled for words. You're the monster who asked instead of demanded, who gave me choices when you could have just taken. That makes you different. Different isn't good. Maybe not. But it's something. We stood there in the doorway, the space between us charged with something I didn't understand, tension and possibility and danger all mixed together. Stay, he said quietly. Please. Let me show you that this cage can be something better than the freedom that was killing you. And if I do, what happens then? I don't know. He smiled, and it transformed his face, made him look younger, less dangerous. Maybe we figure it out together. I should have said no, should have chosen freedom. But standing there, looking at this complicated, terrible, strangely gentle man, I made a choice that would change everything. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. The smile that crossed his face was like sunrise, bright and warming and full of promise that might be blessing or curse. Thank you, he said, and meant it. He left me then, and I closed the door, my heart racing. I'd chosen the cage, chosen the monster. God help me, I'd chosen him. The days that followed blurred together in a strange rhythm I'd never experienced before. Mornings brought breakfast on my balcony, fresh pastries, fruit, coffee better than anything I'd ever tasted. Olga became my constant companion, gentle and patient as she helped me navigate this new world. Mr. Volkov has meetings all day, she'd say, or Mr. Volkov is away on business. Always formal, always distant, as if the man who'd stood at my door that midnight, vulnerable and almost pleading, had been a dream. But the evidence of his attention was everywhere. My room filled with books, novels, poetry, classics I'd always wanted to read but never had time for. A laptop appeared on the desk, top of the line, with a note in bold, precise handwriting. For you. No restrictions. Clothes appeared in the closet, all in my size, all beautiful and expensive, not revealing or provocative, but elegant, respectful. It was the respect that confused me most. A week passed, then 2. I explored the mansion during the day, discovering a library that took my breath away, a music room with a grand piano, a greenhouse full of orchids that bloomed in impossible colors. The grounds were vast. I walked them daily, always watched by discreet security who never approached, but never let me out of sight. I was a bird in a gilded cage, and the cage was so beautiful, I sometimes forgot the bars. But at night, Victor came. Not every night, but often enough that I began to anticipate the soft knock at my door around midnight. We'd sit in my room, or in his study, talking for hours. He told me about growing up in Moscow, about poverty and violence, and clawing his way up through a world that ate the weak. About his brother, Alexei, who ran the European operations, and who Victor clearly both loved and feared. I told him about Ohio, about my mother who died when I was 19, about moving to the city with nothing but hope and watching that hope slowly die under the weight of rent and bills and endless struggling. You should have asked for help, he said one night, pouring us both vodka from a crystal decanter. From who? I laughed. I had no one. That's what being invisible means. No one sees you fall because no one's looking in the first place. His jaw tightened. I'm looking now. And he was. The intensity of his attention was almost frightening. The way his eyes followed me when we were in the same room. The way he noticed everything. If I was tired. If I'd skipped a meal. If something was bothering me. It felt like being seen under a microscope. Every part of me examined and catalogued. But he never touched me. Never crossed that invisible line between protection and possession. Even though I could feel the tension building between us like a storm-gathering force. 3 weeks after I'd arrived, everything changed. I was in the library, curled up in a leather chair with a novel, when Victor burst through the doors. His face was dark with fury, and 2 of his men followed, talking urgently in Russian. Emma. His voice was clipped. We need to talk. Now. I followed him to his study, my heart pounding. He dismissed his men with a sharp gesture, and closed the door, then turned to face me. Katerina's father is dead, he said without preamble. Killed 3 days ago, and his organization is blaming me. I sank into a chair. Did you? No, he paced like a caged animal. I had no reason to. The man lost everything when I exposed his daughter's betrayal. He was no threat. But someone made it look like my work, my methods, my signature. And now his loyalists want blood. What does that mean? He stopped, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. It means war. It means the fragile peace I've maintained in this city is about to shatter. And it means... He moved closer, crouching in front of my chair so we were eye level. It means you're in more danger than ever. If they find out about you, if they discover you're the one who warned me about Katerina, who started this entire chain of events, they'll use you to get to me. Fear, cold and sharp, sliced through me. What do we do? We? His hand reached out, cupping my face with surprising gentleness. There is no we in this, Emma. This is my war, my world. You shouldn't be part of it. But I am. I covered his hand with mine. You said so yourself. I stepped into your world that night. There's no stepping back out. Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes. I could send you away, far away. New identity, new life, you'd be safe. And alone. The realization hit me suddenly, and invisible again. Better invisible than dead, is it? I met his gaze, surprised by my own certainty. I've been invisible my whole life, Victor. I've been dying slowly for years. At least here, with you, I'm alive. I exist, even if it's dangerous. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You're insane. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just tired of being a ghost. I took a breath. Let me stay. Let me help. Help. He almost smiled. What help could you possibly... Emma. I'm invisible, I interrupted. That's what I'm good at. People don't see me, don't notice me. If you need information, if you need someone who can move without being watched, I can do that. He stared at me for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. You'd risk yourself? For me? I already did. That night at the restaurant. That was different. That was instinct, impulse. This is choosing to walk into fire. Then let me choose. I leaned forward. You gave me choice, remember? Let me choose you. Choose this. Choose to matter. His control cracked. He pulled me from the chair and kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, possessive, a claiming and a question all at once. His hands tangled in my hair, and I gasped against his mouth, my fingers clutching his shirt. Heat flooded through me, burning away fear and doubt, and every rational thought. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Emma. My name was a groan. You don't know what you're asking for. So, show me. I was trembling, but not with fear. Show me what I'm choosing. He kissed me again, slower this time, thorough and devastating. Then he pressed his forehead to mine. If you stay, if you truly choose this, there's no going back. You'll be mine. Under my protection, yes. But also, mine. In every way. Can you accept that? The possessiveness should have scared me. Maybe a month ago it would have, but I'd spent 3 weeks watching this man, learning him, seeing past the monster to the human underneath. The man who read poetry in Russian when he thought no one was listening, who paid the hospital bills for his injured men and their families, who'd given me choice when he could have simply taken. Yes, I whispered. His smile was fierce and beautiful and terrifying. Then you're mine. And I protect what's mine. The next week was a whirlwind. Victor's world, which I'd only glimpsed before, opened fully. I attended meetings, silent, invisible, but listening, learning. I watched him navigate the complex web of alliances and threats, saw the strategic mind behind the dangerous exterior. And I saw the violence too, not directly. He kept me away from that. But in the aftermath. Men who came back bloodied, conversations in Russian that ended with grim nods, the tension that permeated the entire household as war crept closer. But at night, he was mine. He came to my room, or summoned me to his, and we'd talk and kiss and slowly, carefully, explore this impossible thing growing between us. He was surprisingly patient, never pushing, always asking, as if I were something precious that might break. You're not what I expected, I told him one night, lying in his arms on his massive bed. both of us still clothed but the boundaries between us dissolving. What did you expect? His fingers traced patterns on my shoulder. A monster, all teeth and violence. I am that too. I know. But you're also this. I pressed my hand over his heart, feeling it beat. Human, complicated, capable of gentleness. He caught my hand, brought it to his lips. Only with you. For you. His eyes met mine. You've ruined me, Emma Clark. Made me want things I can't have. Made me feel things I thought I'd forgotten. What things? Hope. He said it like a confession. The possibility that I could be more than what I am. That someone could see the monster and not run. I'm not running. No. His smile was soft, wondering. You're insane enough to stay. A phone buzzed. His. Urgent and insistent. He checked it, and his expression darkened. I have to go. There's been an incident at the docks. I sat up. Let me come with you. Absolutely not. Victor, no. He stood, already reaching for his shoulder holster, checking the gun with practiced efficiency. This is dangerous. Real danger, not the sanitized version you've seen. I won't risk you. Frustration flared. I'm not a China doll. I told you I wanted to help, to be part of this. And I told you that you're mine to protect. His voice rose. God damn it, Emma, don't you understand? If something happened to you because of me, because of my world. He stopped, jaw clenched. I can't. I won't risk you. Then what am I? I demanded. A pet? A possession you keep locked away? You're... He struggled with something, emotions warring across his face. You're the only good thing I have, the only pure thing in my entire goddamn life. And I will not let this world destroy you. The rawness in his voice stopped me cold. He left, and I was alone again, my heart aching with something I didn't want to name. Hours passed. Dawn crept across the sky, pale and cold. I stood at the window, watching, waiting, fear gnawing at my stomach. Finally, headlights. The SUV pulled up, and Victor got out. Even from here, I could see he was limping, his shirt torn and dark with what might have been blood. I ran. Down the stairs, through the hallways, out the front door. He looked up, surprised as I crashed into him. Emma, you're hurt. My hands fluttered over him, checking for wounds. You're bleeding. We need to... It's not mine. He caught my hands, stilling them. Emma, I'm fine. It's not my blood. Relief and horror mixed together. What happened? Later. He pulled me close, burying his face in my hair. Right now, I just need... He breathed in deeply. You. I need you. We stood there in the early morning light, clinging to each other, and I realized the truth that had been building for weeks. I loved him. This dangerous, violent, impossible man. I loved him. God help me, I loved him. Victor wouldn't talk about what happened at the docks. Not that morning, when Olga fussed over the cuts on his knuckles and the bruise blooming across his ribs. Not that afternoon, when he disappeared into his study with his top men for hours. And not that evening, when he finally emerged, looking exhausted and older than his 34 years. It's handled, was all he said, pouring himself 3 fingers of vodka and downing it in one swallow. I wanted to push, to demand answers, but the shadows in his eyes stopped me. Instead, I did something I'd never done before. I crossed the study, took the glass from his hand, and kissed him. Soft and slow, offering comfort instead of demanding it. His arms came around me immediately, pulling me close. Stay with me tonight, he murmured against my lips. Not in your room, in mine. His voice cracked slightly. I need to know you're safe, that you're real. So I stayed. His bedroom was masculine and sparse. Dark wood, white linens, nothing unnecessary. We lay together on his bed, fully clothed, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat gradually slow from racing to steady. I killed 2 men tonight, he said into the darkness. They were trying to take one of my shipments. Working for Katerina's father's old organization. They knew they were going to die, but they came anyway. His hand stroked my hair absently. Do you know what that's like? Looking into someone's eyes and seeing them accept their death? I didn't answer. There was no answer. I've done it hundreds of times, maybe thousands. It stopped bothering me years ago. His chest rose and fell beneath my cheek. But tonight, all I could think was, what if they have someone waiting for them? Someone who needs them. Someone like you who'll wake up tomorrow and find their world empty? Victor. I'm a monster, Emma. I've always been a monster, but you make me want to be something else. Something better, and I don't know if that's possible. I pushed up on my elbow, looking down at him in the dim light. His face was vulnerable in a way I'd never seen, all the careful masks stripped away. Maybe you can't change what you are, I said carefully. But you can choose what you do with it. You gave me a choice when you could have just taken. You've been patient and gentle when you could have been cruel. That matters. Does it? His hand cupped my face. Does it matter if the foundation is still blood and violence? I don't know, I admitted. But I know that I see you. All of you. The violence and the gentleness, the monster and the man. And I'm still here. That has to mean something. He pulled me down and kissed me, and this time it was different. Desperate and hungry, but also reverent. Like I was something holy he didn't deserve to touch. His hands slid beneath my shirt, rough palms against soft skin, and I gasped into his mouth. Emma. My name was a prayer and a curse. Tell me to stop. No. I kissed along his jaw, down his neck, tasting salt and something uniquely him. Don't stop. I want this. I want you. What followed was slow and intense, a claiming that felt mutual rather than one-sided. He touched me like I might disappear, memorizing every curve and hollow. I explored the landscape of his body, scars and muscle, and the evidence of a violent life lived dangerously. We learned each other in the darkness, and when he finally made me his in every sense, it felt less like possession and more like fusion, two broken pieces finding a way to fit together. Afterwards, tangled in his sheets with dawn creeping through the windows, he held me close and whispered, I love you. The words hung in the air between us, impossible and true. You can't, I said, but there was no conviction in it. I do. His lips brushed my temple. I've loved you since that night in the alley when you looked at me like I was a man instead of a monster, when you chose to get in the car instead of running. You're brave and foolish, and you see me, Emma, really see me. How could I not love you? Tears pricked my eyes. I love you too. I don't want to, but I do. He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. What a pair we make. The monster and the angel, neither of us smart enough to walk away. We lay there as morning came, and for a brief moment, everything felt possible. Reality crashed back that afternoon. I was in the library when Victor's brother Alexei arrived from Moscow. I heard the commotion, raised voices, multiple cars, the controlled chaos that surrounded important arrivals. Curious, I moved to the window and watched a convoy of black SUVs disgorge men in expensive suits. And then Alexei himself emerged. He looked like Victor, same height, same broad shoulders, same sharp features. But where Victor was winter ice, Alexei was fire. All charisma and dangerous charm, with a smile that probably made people forget they were talking to a predator until it was too late. Olga found me moments later. Mr. Volkov requests you stay in your room while his brother is here, for your own safety. Why? What's wrong? Her expression was tight with worry. Alexei is not like Victor. He's unpredictable, cruel. And he doesn't share his brother's protective instincts. Please, Miss Clark, stay out of sight. So I hid like a child, listening to voices drift up from downstairs. Russian mostly, sharp and fast, but occasionally English would break through. Arguing, always arguing. Hours passed. Dinner came and went, brought to my room by a nervous staff member. Night fell, and still no Victor. Finally, well past midnight, my door opened. Victor stood there, and my heart clenched. He looked destroyed. Tie gone, shirt unbuttoned, a fresh cut along his cheekbone that was still bleeding sluggishly. What happened? I rushed to him. He pulled me into his arms, holding tight enough to hurt. Alexei knows about you. Ice flooded my veins. How? I told him. His voice was flat. I had to. He was suspicious, demanding to know why I've been distracted. Why I'm not pursuing Katarina's father's organization more aggressively. I couldn't lie to him. He's my brother. We don't lie to each other. What did he say? Victor pulled back, and his eyes were bleak. He thinks you're a liability, a weakness. He wants me to send you away. Says a woman, especially an American civilian, makes me vulnerable. Is he wrong? The question hurt to ask. No. Victor's honesty was brutal. He's absolutely right. You are my weakness. Every person who wants to hurt me now knows exactly how to do it. They hurt you. And I... He struggled with the words. I can't protect you and run my organization. I can't keep you safe and fight this war. Something has to give. I understood what he wasn't saying. You're sending me away. I have to. He sounded broken. Emma, if something happened to you because of me, if they took you, hurt you, used you as leverage, I would burn this entire city to the ground. I would become something so monstrous that even Alexei would be terrified. And that can't happen. I can't let you destroy me, and I can't destroy myself, trying to keep you. Tears spilled down my cheeks. So that's it? You love me? But it doesn't matter? It matters. He wiped my tears with his thumbs, his touch infinitely gentle. It matters more than anything. That's why I have to let you go, because loving you means wanting you safe more than I want you with me. And if I don't want to go, you don't have a choice. His voice hardened. This isn't a discussion, Emma. It's done. Tomorrow morning, you'll be on a plane to Vancouver. New identity, new life. Everything arranged. You'll be safe. You'll be free. I'll be alone. The words came out ragged. I'll be invisible again. Better invisible than dead. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips, soft, final kisses that felt like goodbye. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You deserved better than a monster who couldn't even protect you properly. He left then, and I collapsed on my bed, sobbing into the pillows. After everything, after choosing him, after loving him, after finally feeling seen and real and alive, I was being sent back to nothing. Morning came gray and cold. Olga helped me pack the few belongings I'd accumulated, her eyes sad but understanding. He's doing this because he loves you, she said quietly. If you were just a possession, he'd keep you regardless of the danger. This is him choosing your life over his happiness. That doesn't make it hurt less. No. She squeezed my hand. But it means something. The SUV was waiting outside. Victor stood beside it, dressed in a dark suit, looking every inch the cold, powerful man I'd first seen at the restaurant. But I could see the cracks now, the tightness around his eyes, the rigid set of his shoulders. He was holding himself together by sheer will. The plane leaves in 2 hours, he said. Yuri will accompany you to Vancouver and help you get settled. You'll have everything you need. Money, documents, contacts. A job arranged at a bookstore, an apartment in a safe neighborhood. It's a good life, Emma. Better than what you had before. But not with you. His jaw clenched. No, not with me. I wanted to rage, to scream, to refuse. But looking at his face, I understood. This was killing him. Every word, every moment, every step toward the SUV was agony. And if I fought him, if I made this harder, I'd only hurt him more. So I did the bravest thing I'd ever done. I nodded. Okay. Surprise flickered across his face. Okay? You're right. I can't be your weakness. I can't be the thing that destroys you. I stepped closer, rising on my toes to kiss him one last time. I love you, Victor Volkov. And because I love you, I'll let you do this. I'll go. I'll be safe. I'll live. His arms came around me, crushing me against him. I love you, he whispered fiercely. I will love you until the day I die. And if there's any way, any possible way to make this work someday, I'll find it. I swear it. I know. I pulled back, memorizing his face. Goodbye, Victor. Goodbye, Emma. I got in the SUV. Yuri closed the door. The engine started and we pulled away. I watched through the rear window as Victor stood there, growing smaller and smaller, until finally we turned a corner and he disappeared. I pressed my hand against the glass and let myself cry. The drive to the airport took 40 minutes. Yuri was silent, respectful of my grief. We were almost there, city giving way to industrial areas and airport approach roads, when his phone rang. He answered in Russian, listened, then his entire body went rigid. Da, ponятно. He ended the call and immediately pulled the SUV over to the side of the road. What's wrong? I asked. He turned to look at me, his expression grim. There's been an incident at the estate. An attack. Mr. Volkov has been shot. The world stopped. What? His brother Alexei. It was a setup. Alexei made a deal with Katerina's father's organization, Victor's Life, for control of both operations. He came to Moscow supposedly to help, but really to get close enough to strike. Yuri's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The household staff is loyal to Victor. They've contained Alexei, but Mr. Volkov is badly wounded. He's asking for you. Then take me back. The words came out fierce, certain. Right now. Miss Clark. Now. I was already unbuckling my seatbelt. He's dying and he's asking for me. I don't care about the danger or the war or any of it. Take me back or I'll walk. Yuri studied me for a long moment, then nodded. He executed a sharp U-turn, and we raced back toward the estate, sirens wailing as Yuri called ahead. The drive back felt eternal. Every minute was agony, images flooding my mind, Victor bleeding, dying, alone. Calling for me while I raced toward Vancouver and safety and a life without him. Finally, the estate gates. They stood open, security waving us through. The SUV screeched to a halt in front of the mansion, and I was out before it fully stopped, running for the entrance. Olga met me in the foyer, her face streaked with tears. Upstairs, the master bedroom. The doctor is with him. I ran, taking stairs 2 at a time, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. Down the hallway, men in suits standing guard, their expressions grave. They parted to let me through. The bedroom was chaos, a doctor and 2 nurses working frantically. Medical equipment everywhere, blood staining the white sheets. And in the center of it all, Victor, his face pale as death, oxygen mask over his mouth. Emma. He saw me, and despite everything, he smiled. He reached up with a shaking hand to pull the oxygen mask aside. You came back. I crashed to my knees beside the bed, grabbing his hand. Of course I came back, you idiot. Did you really think I'd leave you? Hoped you would. Safer. His words were slurred, weak. Alexei, didn't expect him to, should have known. Don't talk. I kissed his knuckles, tasted salt from my own tears. Save your strength. You're going to be fine. The doctor, a severe-looking man in his 60s, spoke quietly. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters. He's lost a lot of blood, but if we can stabilize him. He didn't finish the sentence. He's strong, I said fiercely. He's going to make it. Victor's eyes found mine. Stay. Please. If I'm going to die, want you here. You're not going to die. I leaned close, pressing my forehead to his. You don't get to die. Do you hear me? You don't get to send me away for my own good, and then die. That's not how this ends. How does it end? His voice was barely a whisper. With us. You together. And me against the world, remember? I kissed him softly. So you fight. You survive. And then we figure out how to make this work, because I'm not losing you. I refuse to lose you. Something shifted in his eyes, determination replacing resignation. Promise you'll stay? I promise. I'm yours, remember? You said I was yours. That means you don't get to leave me. He managed a weak smile, demanding, little angel. You made me this way. I squeezed his hand. Now fight. The next hours were a blur. Surgery on site. Too dangerous to move him. I waited outside the room with Olga and the household staff, all of us silent and terrified. Someone brought me coffee. Someone else offered food. I refused both, unable to think about anything except Victor, fighting for his life behind that closed door. Finally, as dawn broke for the second time in what felt like a lifetime, the doctor emerged. He looked exhausted but cautiously optimistic. He's stable. The surgery went well. With proper rest and care, he should make a full recovery. Relief hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. Olga caught me, held me while I sobbed into her shoulder. "Can I see him?" I asked when I could speak. "He's sleeping." But yes, just for a moment. I slipped into the room quietly. Victor lay in the bed, now clean and bandaged, his breathing steady beneath the oxygen mask. The color was already returning to his face, and some of the monitors had been removed. I sat in the chair beside his bed and took his hand, pressing it to my cheek. "You scared me," I whispered. "Don't ever do that again." His fingers twitched against my skin, and his eyes fluttered open. "Emma, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." "Alexei?" "Contained. Alive. Your men are holding him until you decide what to do." I smoothed hair back from his forehead. "But that's tomorrow's problem. Right now, you need to rest." "You stayed." Wonder colored his voice. "Could have run. Should have run. Where would I go?" I kissed his palm. "You're my home now. Monster and all." His smile was small but genuine. "What happens now?" "Now?" I settled more comfortably in the chair, not letting go of his hand. "Now we figure it out. Together. All the danger and violence and impossible complications, we face them together. No more sending me away for my own good. No more protecting me by pushing me out. If I'm yours, then you're mine too, and that means we're in this together. It won't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever is." I leaned forward and kissed him gently, carefully avoiding his injuries. "But I didn't choose easy. I chose you." "Insane," he murmured, but his eyes were warm. "My insane, brave angel." "Your angel," I agreed. "Now sleep. When you wake up, we'll start figuring out how a monster and an angel build a life together." His eyes drifted closed, his breathing evening out into genuine sleep. I stayed there, holding his hand, watching the sun rise through the windows and paint the room in gold. It wouldn't be a fairy tale. There would be danger and violence and complications I couldn't even imagine yet. His world was dark and brutal, and I was choosing to live in it, but I was also choosing to be seen, to matter, to love, and be loved in return. 3 months later, I stood in Victor's study, our study now, looking at the papers spread across the desk. Documents that made me legally his wife. Not a grand wedding or a public ceremony, that would have been too dangerous. But official, binding, real. "Any regrets?" Victor asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. He'd healed completely, though he moved more carefully now, more aware of his mortality. "Only that we didn't do this sooner." I leaned back against him. "Though I could have done without the death threats, the attempted kidnapping, and the 3 separate incidents where your enemies tried to use me as leverage, but you survived them all." His pride was evident. My fierce little angel, who learned to shoot, to fight, to navigate my world like you were born to it. I had learned. Had to. Being Victor's wife meant being a target, but it also meant having access to resources and protection I'd never dreamed of. And more than that, it meant mattering, being seen, having a purpose beyond mere survival. "Alexei's trial is next week," I said quietly. "Have you decided?" Victor's arms tightened around me. His brother's betrayal had cut deep, but family was complicated, especially in their world. Exile, stripped of everything, but alive. He's still my brother, even if he's also a traitor. I turned in his arms to face him. "You're a better man than you think you are. Only because of you." He kissed me softly. "You make me want to be better, to build something more than just violence and power. A legacy that's about more than fear." "Then let's build it." I smiled up at him. Together. And we did. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't safe. But it was ours. This impossible love between a monster and the invisible girl who'd risked everything to save him. We built a life in the spaces between danger and tenderness, violence and gentleness, darkness and light. I'd been invisible once, a ghost disappearing a little more each day. But Victor Volkov had seen me, had chosen me, had loved me enough to let me go, and I'd loved him enough to come back. And in the end, that was all that mattered. We were seen. We were real. We were together. And for 2 people who'd spent so long alone in their respective prisons, that was everything.